Distinguished guests, members of the Sydney Peace Foundation, and fellow advocates for justice, good evening. I would like to acknowledge and thank the City of Sydney, a long-term supporter of the Sydney Peace Foundation, Lord Mayor Clover Moore, the patron of the Sydney Peace Foundation and an extraordinary leader in her own right, committed to peace and social and climate justice, and the University of Sydney, which has hosted the Sydney Peace Foundation since its inception in 1998. It is a particular pleasure for me to come to Australia. South Africans owe a huge debt of gratitude to young Australians, most of whom were still in high school at the time, for their protests and activism against racism in sports that resulted in the expulsion of apartheid South Africa from cricket and soccer matches, and eventually they were banned from the Olympic Games. I still remember vividly pictures of Australian youth running onto the sports fields in Sydney and disrupting matches between the Australian national teams and the whites-only teams from South Africa. You inspired us and you taught us to stand up against immoral race laws. Speaking from my experience in international human rights work with states, I fully agree with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who extolled the values of Australians. In his election victory speech, he acknowledged your optimism and determination. I am honored to join the illustrious group of past laureates, including Mary Robinson, who preceded me as UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Nelson Mandela was a recipient of the Human Rights Award from the Sydney Peace Foundation. It was a privilege to have known them. I am deeply honored and humbled to accept the Sydney Peace Foundation's International Peace Prize. This recognition is not mine alone. It belongs to every survivor of injustice who has found the courage to speak out. It belongs to the women of South Africa who, like my mother, defied a system designed to silence them. And it belongs to every human rights defender around the world who dares to demand dignity, equality, and peace. Throughout my life as a lawyer in apartheid South Africa, as a judge on the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and the International Criminal Court, and as UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, I have seen both the depths of human cruelty and the boundless potential for resilience and change. I have witnessed how silence enables impunity, but also how truth, when spoken boldly, can shift the course of history. Peace is not simply the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice. It is the dismantling of systems of oppression, the recognition of indigenous sovereignty, the protection of the vulnerable, and the affirmation that all lives are of equal worth. Today, we are confronted by wars, climate injustice, and rising authoritarianism. Yet, we are also seeing extraordinary movements led by young people, by women, by indigenous communities, demanding transformation, not just reform. These voices echo the call that peace cannot be achieved without justice, and justice cannot prevail without accountability. This award strengthens me in my resolve to keep fighting for a world where the rule of law protects all, not just the privileged few. And it reminds us that even in the face of formidable odds, moral courage can triumph. To the Sydney Peace Foundation, thank you for this great honor. Let this prize not mark an end, but a call to all of us to persevere, to listen, and to act. Thank you.